The Books That Shaped Me is proudly sponsored by WinStar Insurance Group right out of Cedar Park, Texas. Owned and operated by Stephanie Dew, my dear friend. Early on in her career, she knew what it was like to feel undervalued. And she vowed that if she ever had an opportunity to be in leadership, she was going to do it different. And she does. She values each of her employees and her clients with the utmost integrity and respect and kindness that you'd ever imagine. So they've got a specialty in their business. They take care of first responders. They've got wineries, breweries, childcare facilities, and the employees themselves are so excited to be there. And they talk about how they haven't felt valued anywhere else like they do there. So it's hats off to Stephanie and WinStar Insurance Group because our values align with faith, trust, and authenticity. Thank you, Stephanie, from the bottom of my heart and those of us that hang out with the books that shaped me. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of The Books That Shaped Me with Angie Smith. And I'm so excited about today's episode, y'all. We've got Miss Theresa Pore, and I'm going to give her just a little bit of a shout out, and then I'm going to give her a chance to tell her story and share the books that shaped her to help create her to be the awesome leader, inspirational woman, amazing wife and mother that she is. But Theresa and I go way back. When I was living in Elgin, we used to go to church together at Family Worship Center, and our lives were just a little bit in parallel. We didn't really hang out. We didn't run in the same groups. But then I moved to Austin with my family. She stayed here. She went through her own life journey experiences that she'll be telling us about. And then our paths got to cross again after she's already made such amazing strides and growth in her life. And then she was such a blessing to me, holding my hand, encouraging me. And I had the opportunity to align with her in Unbreakable Enterprises and get my life coaching through Unbreakable Life. So this is the beginning of a conversation. And Miss Theresa, please share with the world what's on your heart and how did you get here?
Oh, well, first I just have to say what's on my heart right now is the joy of watching you. Just to see you glow and to see you step fully into this new path that really is not a new path, but it's one that you have decided to step into, right? So Angie, it's just a joy to get to watch you and to see you glow like in such a beautiful way. So thank you for the honor of getting to be episode 2 on your podcast. Yeah.
I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. So yes, I think about the backstory of our relationship, and it's been a long one, but it's been a fresh new one as well, and that's so exciting. One of my favorite memories of you, because we didn't really know each other, but we obviously went to the same church together and worshiped together. And one of my favorite things about my memory of you, and that I've always held on to, is watching you worship. Like just watching the joy come alive in the presence of the Lord. And I feel like that's a new place that I get to see you at even now today in a different realm. It's just the work that you do is become a worship unto the Lord. And it's so fun to watch.
That is full circle and beautiful. I'm thinking of like when a flower opens and some of those little petals, they get let go because that was the last season, but new ones are opening. You just helped me like see that and put that together. So thank you.
Oh gosh, you're so welcome. And thank you for the honor to get to be on your talk show or your podcast.
We're talking.
We're talking. Yeah. Oh man, where to start? So, wow. I love the title, The Books That Shaped Me. And I truly, as I was preparing to share and hopefully impart some sort of wisdom on this today, I really started thinking about the books that shaped me and the different seasons of life that have truly brought me to here, to this place, to this studio even, and the Unbreakable Enterprises headquarters, which were never part of my plan. Like I had no idea what, it's so funny. A word was spoken over my husband and I in 2022, and a word, again, like a book, right? A word that we get to unveil, release, open up. But this word was spoken over us, and I had no idea what exceedingly abundantly above, as we talked about earlier, that the Lord was going to do. And so it's a joy and it's an honor to be right here, right now, doing the work that we get to do and watching it unfold in the world.
For such a time as this.
Yes.
I love it. I feel like that's exactly where we are. We're stepping into who God has created us to be.
Yes.
We're the disciples of the Lord in 2026, carrying the word, being the hands and feet, and showing how to apply those insights into every single day life.
Yeah.
So inquiring minds want to know, Miss Theresa, where do we start?
Where do we start in this conversation? Or
the milestones, because we are titling it The Books That Shaped Me. So I sure want to hear all about that. But also, like we have taught in pillar number 1 and the 7 pillars of an unbreakable life, identity is our foundation. And then we make it to our mindsets. And then we go to moments that shaped us. So really, this conversation is a free space. When you think about how you're showing up today, the journey that you've been through from your family of origin, the challenges that you've navigated personally and professionally, what are those stories that we can learn from you and we can apply to our own lives?
Yeah, thank you. Well, for sure, identity is number one. And, when we look at Unbreakable Enterprises, it started with a really challenging defining moment. 2019, I came to this place where our business that we own was struggling. And it wasn't so much that the business was struggling, but I felt like the business was struggling. And Angie, what I really understood after doing some work is that I was struggling. And the output, everything I put my hands to, was going to struggle because I bring me to the equation, right? Everywhere that I went. But in 2019, I had just had this moment where I was like, okay, something has to be different. I had worked with, business coaches and mentors for a long time, but it was always outward producing. What could I produce? How could I shift? How could I change? What could I put my hands to? How could I perform? Like all of those things. And honestly, in 2019, I was tired of performing.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, right? And depending on who you're performing for, the performance looks different.
Indeed.
Right. And so whether it was a work performance, it didn't matter. It was so frustrating. So at that point, I remember having a conversation with the Lord and I said, God, why can't I hear your voice? And the answer I got was profound and so necessary. And it was, you're listening to too many other voices. So at that point, I knew something needed to shift, something needed to change, and I needed to start looking inward, tuning down all of the external noise and really get into, okay, who am I? Like, not who am I that shows up at the bank, or who am I that shows up in our chimney business, or who am I that shows up for homeschool, or any of those titles, but who am I? And so, Angie, that started this beautiful journey of self-discovery. And for the first time, I started learning about who am I for me and for the call that I knew was on my life. And that really just opened up things that I could have never imagined, because it wasn't until I got really, really clear on who I was that I could actually start addressing the things that were holding me back.
I've heard it said, we're not human doings, we're human beings.
Yeah.
And everything you just described is what we're shaped to do when we're young and we're navigating this life. I show up as a daughter, I show up as a sister, I show up as a student, I show up as an employee, and I'm told and trained how to put this face on. I'm shown what the if-then sequence looks like. If you do this, if you perform this way, you get the accolades, you get the affirmation, you get the praise. And that just reinforces us becoming those people pleasers. And it has its place. We do want to produce, but at the end of the day, when we are in our quiet time, when we are trying to figure out who am I when I'm not producing, I mean, it's kind of awkward and scary sometimes.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that energy of needing to create space?
Well, I think number one, it started with a hunger, right? Whatever, and this is something that I've learned to believe. Whatever our hunger is, if we don't feed it, it will just change. It'll shift and it'll become something else. But that hunger in me, I remember I was at church on a Wednesday night, and our pastor was speaking on the gifts that we all have. And I remember writing down, what's my gift? Because I was so unclear, and I could do personality tests, I could do all these different things, but nothing really felt like me. right? And again, it all felt like performance. And I remember another time, Angie, that I was leading this business to business networking group. And I had taught people to come up with their catchy taglines, because that actually is one of my gifts, is to come up with catchphrases and taglines and things like that. And in a moment, again, this hunger in me said, stop. I want you to get people to write down who they are outside of titles. And so I literally handed out like Post-it notes. And I've done this at several conferences, even where I hand out Post-it notes, and like not one, but the first Post-it note that I wanted them to write on is, what's your title? Okay, now get behind that. What's behind the title? Okay, now get behind that. Who are you at your core? Right. And so there was this desire in me to figure it out, but I didn't feed it, because I kept feeding performance until I hit that wall. And so then I really just had to start making space for it. But really, I think the pivotal moment, which, I believe in divine timing, I believe in divine appointment, I believe in divine contacts, right? And this particular moment was on a Sunday morning at the beginning of 2020. And I had already, spoken to the Lord about this, and really this hunger was building, it was building, it was building. And this infomercial showed up on my Facebook, because I was still looking to Facebook to solve my problems, right? But anyway, this infomercial popped up, and it was titled The Blissful Breadwinner. And I was like, oh, I know what it's like to be a breadwinner. I don't know for sure exactly what it's like to be blissful, but I am intrigued on how you can be both. Right. And so I listened to this infomercial, fell in love with the voice. My friend is from Australia. She's she's friend now, she's stranger then. But taking a leap of curiosity is really what led to the unfolding of all of this, and again, it was a divine timing. That hunger was already building inside of me. And it was a divine appointment. I got to connect with somebody from Facebook on the opposite side of the world. She's in Australia. Like, our time zones were so different. But just sitting down and having a conversation with her, I ended up hiring her as my life coach. And we worked together for about 2 years as I really started digging in. And the very first thing that she had me do, Angie, was a personality assessment. And I was like, I've done personality assessments like my entire career, but something was different this time, because I was doing it for me. I wasn't doing it for somebody else to fit me in a role. I was doing it with this level of curiosity and hunger to see, who is Theresa Pore? And that just became part of the journey. But, how does that relate to the books that shape me? I think, so many of the things that we have internalized throughout our lives have become part of that journey. But that was the catalyst moment that truly allowed me to stop living in performance and start living in alignment.
Well, there you have it, ma'am. You just said alignment. And that is the word that you shared with us at the beginning of 2026 is the word of the year for Unbreakable Enterprises. So at that time, if I'll just take a little quick breather here, and then we'll give you a chance to get back and telling us about your books. But I was still working in my tech job, and I was doing the best I could, and I'm showing up, and I'm trying to pursue my passions, and also do the work that I'm paid to do. And I believed it in my mind, but then just a short month ago, I was let go from that job because I wasn't producing. And when that happened, and I had to sit with myself and my uncomfortability, and then I just said yes to all the things the Lord's had in my heart that I've had on the back burner, and I've thrown myself in. I'm living this life of alignment. It's in my bones. It's not just in my brain, and it is next level. It is good times. So I wanted to just say thank you for your obedience. Thank you for being willing to say, I am not satisfied with the noise and the clutter. I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to spend 2 years investing with somebody across the world who has a message for me in this moment. And it has continued to impact the trajectory of your life and so many others. So thank you for saying yes and just being a light, because here we go. Game on.
Oh, it's so fun. Angie, I just have to know, how different does your life feel living in alignment?
It's amazing. I remember even learning about like going to a chiropractor and learning that person teaching us about how when your bones are not aligned, everything is off and has a impact, and how you walk. You have a hitch in your step, your shoulder hurts. And now I'm like, oh, this is alignment physically, spiritually, emotionally. Oh, things are working out. You said you believe in divine timing. Yeah. The Lord is showing up, opening doors, and I'm like picking my jaw up off the ground, like I'm getting to live this life. It's is next level. My mind is blown in a good way. I'm having so much fun. So I feel like this is the epitome of alignment.
You know, what's so beautiful about this joy that I see on your face, Angie, is being laid off of a job is hard, right? And again, when we're used to living in performance, to be told we're not performing, that really hurts, right? Because especially like for me, and there were times that my boss would walk into my door at the bank when I worked there, and Teresa, you're underperforming, right? And it hurt because I had grown up believing that performance was the key. Just work harder, do more, be more. And as soon as that was, you know, proven to be not enough, it's hard, right? So hard. But Angie, to see you now, the word that I heard you use just now is I get to live this life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not I have to, not I have to perform for it, but I just get to rest in this and know that the desires of my heart are in alignment with his will, and he's going to continue to provide. That is so beautiful. And what a difference, in how you show up. It's not about performance. It's about I get to. That's really cool.
Yeah. It's next level.
Yeah.
Say that scripture one more time. Beyond the things we can hope,
Sure.
dream.
Ephesians 3:20, for unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above more than we could ask, think, or imagine, according to the power that's working within us. His power. He gives us the power. And when we align ourselves with his word and his will, he will give us exceedingly abundantly above more than we could ask, think, or imagine. And I tell you what, Angie, where you're on is a trajectory of more than you could have ever asked, thought, or imagined. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Unbreakable Enterprises. There's no way I could have imagined this, but I allowed him to use his power through me.
Beautifully mind blown.
It's
That's
so
what
fun.
I'm feeling. I love it. Okay, friend, you got some books. Tell us.
Yes. Well, of course, number one, my book is the Bible, right? And I'm sure, based on some of the people that I know that that's probably going to be a pretty common theme in a lot of yours. But I want to talk about two different phases of life that this shaped me. And they're not both the same. In fact, they're quite different. When I was a little girl, I remember my dad gave me this beautiful, like porcelain trinket. I don't know. I had trinkets all over my walls, but the one that I remember out of all of them was this beautiful trinket, and it was open to the Lord's Prayer. It was a Bible that was open in ceramic, and it was the Lord's Prayer. And that was about as much biblical upbringing as I had, because my parents didn't go to church. However, when I was I think I was about 7 or 8 years old, I was going to a daycare, and they had a church bus because it was attached to a church. And so anyway, they took me to church, and it was a denomination that was very much, biblical teaching. And I started learning a lot about the Old Testament, like so much about the Old Testament. Now, of course, I learned about John 3:16, and that was beautiful, but most of my teachings was in the Old Testament. And so that was really in my DNA. And then I got to my identity forming years, and something happened in those years. And I knew that the Bible was the word of truth, and I knew that my answers could be found in there. And so to try to overcome some of the things that I faced in those identity forming years, I went to the word. And the answer for a lot of the things that I went through was condemnation, because the only place I knew to look was the Old Testament. And Angie, I think that in the Old Testament, I learned that the way to recover from hard things was sacrifice. And as a child, this is in our identity forming years. I think that's where I let go of my desire for creativity and my desire for taking over the world, and started learning about my desire for sacrifice because I wanted to be right with God despite my circumstances.
Mhm.
Right. And so that led me into, I think, a time where I felt like I had to hide, and I had to hide who I was. And because if anybody found out, maybe condemnation was real.
Mm.
I didn't really understand the New Testament.
Mhm.
And so as a child, I was shaped by rules and structure and order
Mm.
and sacrifice. But as I grew and I started really getting familiar with who God really is and his heart and his character, and I learned about the covenant of the New Testament, that's when I started to become free.
Mm.
That's when I learned that he has plans to prosper us, but that his mercies were new every single day. So, regardless of what choices I had chosen in the past or what were chosen for me, I had new mercies every day. And that, that again, Ephesians 3:20, that all of those promises that are new covenant promises were my life. And I didn't have to hold on to rules and sacrifice anymore. So that's a hard one to recognize, that shaping, because I think about how many people in the world today have been struggling with their relationship with God because they only see one side of the story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when we get to the New Testament, the new covenant, we see the full picture of his mercy and his grace and his love and his abundance and his desire to give us the life that he has for us, regardless of the choices that we have made.
Mm. Thank you so much, Theresa. I'm thinking about how you described your early years and the bus and the being a child and hearing those introductory lessons, and how Bible teachers, Sunday school teachers are sanitizing some of the stories because some of them are pretty hairy in the Old Testament, so it can be palatable to a young child's mind, and we can start putting those seeds as children. But as you just walked us through your growth journey, and you were able to advance into the New Testament, then you were able to get the deeper messages that are there. That yes, the Old Testament is there. There are principles that we can apply to our lives. But when you make it into the New Testament, the richness, the fullness, the character, it's a whole new level. It's
Yeah.
growing up with you.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons, Angie, in the Unbreakable movement, that we truly look at, and that I've made it part of my mission to question beliefs, right? Because truly, those beliefs that I had were still grounded in the word, right? They were. But I was seeing them from a very narrow lens,
Mm.
right? At 13 years old, I had no concept on life. I didn't understand what emotional regulation was. I didn't understand what hormones did and the impact. I also didn't understand manipulation. I didn't understand any of those things. So I was allowing myself to live in condemnation, something that I had no control or understanding of. And what I have found in just the work with myself and the work with so many others is a lot of us are allowing what we experienced at a very young identity forming age to dictate how we see life from a lens of a much broader scope.
Mhm.
It's so interesting, and I think that again, had I not gone through that experience, maybe questioning beliefs wouldn't be part of my pillars. But because I have, and because I had to start questioning, okay, why do I believe that? And what did is that true? And why was that rule there? And what, I really had to dig deep and understand it to find the freedom. And so many times for myself and for so many people that I get to mentor and work with, we are trapped in beliefs that we carried from a very young age that are running the show, and really stopping or stunting our ability to live that life of abundance that God has planned for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and and living in such a technology rich world. I'm thinking of, it's like you have an app running in the background, but it's like an outdated app. It's got, gaps in it that need to be refreshed or even closed down if it's not serving us anymore, but it's causing a drain on your energy, your mindset. And like you said, the lens that you see the world and you engage with the world. So to be able to look at it, is this serving me? Does it align with truth? And if not, being able to let go of that and go on to the next level. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thanks. So I do spend time in the Old Testament now, and I spend time in the New Testament. But today, this book shapes every single day. Every single day, I wake up and I ask the Lord, "What is the manna for today? What do you have for me? And how can I use your truth and your life and your love to support people around me?" So, very, very grateful for this book that has shaped me.
Yes, it's our guiding light.
Yes, yes. Another book that, as I was going through a different journey in my life, how fun that I could say journey, because this book is all about a journey. And it's called The Traveler's Gift. And the author is Andy Andrews. This gift, I would say, definitely a gift, but this book was given to me by my national sales director, Mary Kay. And she truly gave it to me at a perfect time as I was on a journey. And this book is about a man. I'm not going to go through all the details, but he goes through as this journey of his life essentially. And the reason I believe that this book has shaped me so much is a very specific piece of the journey. And I don't want to give it away because it's like the Kristen, it's the moment of the book. But there's this time and this place where essentially he has shown what his future was supposed to look like and what God had intended for him. And then it showed him the things, the choices, the distractions, all of those things that prevented him from having that. And he comes back and he's like, "Can I have it? You had it." No, you missed it. And I think about that, Angie. I think about, when I think about the work that I do with Unbreakable Enterprises and being a wife and a mom and all of the other things, one of my missions is to truly hear and embody the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Like, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss something that God had, someone that he had to bless, to inspire, or to be inspired by, right? And so I see the visual of that book and what this angel shows him, and he's like, "This is what was available to you." And of course, he comes back and he changes his life, but that became such a pivotal piece for me of saying, I don't want to miss one thing, right? So that's definitely a beautiful, beautiful book. It's written in such a beautiful storytelling way that it ignites all of your senses, your emotions, your creativity, all of that. And it's applicable, I think, to everybody.
I love that. And I have not read it, and I'm going to go for it.
So, Andy Andrews, The Traveler's Gift. It probably, you could get it read in probably about 3 hours. But it's so profound and just beautiful.
I love that. As you were describing that, I'm getting visual images, and I'm thinking, I was even reminded of what I've decided to name my personal company, Angie Smith Summit Consulting. But I want to focus on the word summit, because that word means, the summit of a mountain, where the way I've applied it to the business and just my life, and what I'm hearing you say is, we start out in life at the foundation, at the beginning, trying to navigate who we are and our skill set and our jobs and how are we going to get paid. And then the curveballs just start coming. And what are we going to do with it? Are we going to get bitter, or are we going to get better? And when we say yes to getting better and learning that lesson and growing, then it's an invitation to the next level. And I feel like that's exactly what I gleaned out of your recap of the traveler's journey. Is he had an opportunity, and when you say yes to that invitation, you continue to advance. But if you don't move forward, then you've missed something.
Yeah. I just, Angie, I think about just being in this space right now today. I truly was presented with a choice 3 years ago, 4 years ago, now 2019. How many years? 7. My goodness, 7 years ago, right? Presented with a choice. Do I continue this path because it's known, because it's not easy, but it's understood, because it's where I've been trained, right? It's because it's the mindset that I'm familiar with, or do I shift? And literally, we would not be sitting here today, right? I think about that so often. I think about, the ability to have had people come to me after a conference, or the places that God has literally given me a partner in Japan, right? A coach in Australia, a doctor friend in Canada, another coach in Japan. Like, all of that would have been lost or missed. And that's just like scratching the surface. My pastor likes to say we're in scratch and sniff mode right now, right? Like, that's where we're at today. What does 5 years from now look like? But I had to make a choice, as you said. And I think there's so many of us in the world today that for some reason we've been conditioned to just say, okay, and settle with the status quo and settle with somebody else's expectations for our lives, who, by the way, don't know our book. They don't know our journey, right? They don't know what we've been through, what God has laid on our hearts, the challenges, the empathy muscles. They don't know any of that. And they give us expectations. And if we believe in the sacrificial mode or the people pleaser mode, we're going to do everything we can to live up to the expectations of the one who didn't create us, instead of, as you said, living in expectancy of what can come when we step in and go deeper. So I absolutely love that book. And I think that that truly was a pivotal piece of the journey for me.
My heart is full. Thank you.
Aw.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're so
Are there
welcome.
any other books? Because there's one that's come to mind that I want to talk to you about. But did you have anything else before
I have one
shift gears?
more.
Okay, you're
more
up.
because this is a fun, like such a fun story. I think it was 2022. My husband and I had been serving, we've been serving at our church for many years, but around 2022, I think January or so, our pastor said, hey, why don't you guys get on stage and start doing the announcements? And he knew that I lead, trainings and things like that. But Pastor Jerry he sees things in the future. Like, he can see things that are available. He's prophetic, and he's an amazing encourager. And so he started calling Royal and I up to do the announcements. And then he started seeing a gift start to unfold with speaking. And so he said, Theresa, I think that you need to start following public speakers, that you need to, I know this is something that you want to do more. So you need to start following public speakers. And so I'm like, okay. First, he was like, start following comedians. And I'm like, I'm just not funny. That's not my thing. And I don't like a lot of curse words. So, but anyway, so he said, just go online and search. And so I did. I went home and I went online and I searched for top public speaker. And this gentleman named Dr. Jason Jones popped up. And his speaker reel popped up, and it was a beautiful speaker reel. And he speaks specifically about neuroscience and how that affects individuals in the workplace. And I was captivated by his speaker reel and the way that he spoke. But the thing that really got to me with that is the name of his book that he had written was Activator. Yeah. And as I was doing previously, all of these personality assessments and tests, one of my strengths that was identified with Clifton Strength Finders was Activator. And so I'm like, okay, I have to get that book, right? I have to get the book. And so the book Activator, I got it and I read it, and it was so fascinating to me. And part of it truly has become part of why I've included neuroscience in our life coaching, because I'm like, this is so rich and beautiful. And it got me into NLP and all kinds of things to really understand how our mind works and how that affects how we show up everywhere we show up. But after I read his book, I called him. And I don't exactly know why I called him, but I just felt like I needed to connect. Like, Pastor Jerry had said, hey, follow this person. And so I was like, I'm just going to call. He answered the phone.
It's a little jolting these days. You're like, whoa, I was prepared for the voicemail.
I was totally prepared for the voicemail. And I was not prepared for him to answer the phone. And he was so kind and so gracious. And I had started talking to him about, my coaching, because at that point I was coaching businesses and I was doing some life coaching, but not to the extent of the 7 pillars and what we do with Unbreakable. But so anyway, so I had the start of a conversation with him. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to work, but I want to speak with him, like speak on a stage with him. I don't know how that's going to work. And wouldn't you know how God works? Last year in May, with the Unite and Ignite Business Conference, I got to partner with Vidya Morthy with Austin Businesswomen.
Whoop, whoop.
And oh, she's phenomenal, so phenomenal. And her trust in me is also phenomenal. And I said, Angie, I have a speaker. And so I sent her his speaker reel. And then I called him and I said, Dr. Jones, would you be willing? I can't guarantee, I don't know what it's going to look like attendance wise and all of that. And he says, Theresa, I've seen what you're building. And he said, I believe in what you're doing. I will meet you at this rate and I will come. And let me just tell you, that conference was phenomenal. But I think it's so cool how, again, exceedingly abundantly above, like, a word said, hey, go follow a speaker. I found the speaker. I found the book. The book changed the way that I truly started developing my leadership and our coaching platform with Unbreakable. And then I got to have him on a stage with me. And let me just tell you, a dream come true. But I hope that, I hope everybody gets a copy of this book because it's profound, it's beautiful, especially if you are in a leadership capacity and you work with teams, because this really talks about how you ignite people with the words that you use, how you activate the parts of their brain that make them come alive. That's really what I learned out of this book. But the experience was phenomenal. And I loved getting to meet and work with Dr. Jason Jones. By the way, he's a phenomenal speaker. And so if any of your listeners are looking for someone who is completely dynamic, that really speaks and geeks out on brain power, he is an amazing.
He's your man.
He's your man.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. As you were walking us through that story, I'm just going to submit the phrase that to me feels like one of those, I got to pick my jaw up off the ground moments. Like,
it was so fun.
We get to live this life.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm having so much fun. I love that.
Oh, and this is your copy.
I'll take it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to read it. And now, so I know I shared with you at the beginning of the year. So I mentioned to you guys that at the beginning of the year of 2026, Theresa shared with us the word alignment for Unbreakable. And so I was embracing it. I was living it the best I could. But in my own individual time, I was praying, and Lord, what word would you have for me for this year? And the word I felt was activate. So I just feel like this aligns. I'll take it. When I was just to kind of unpack that just a little bit further, for me, as I was praying about that and trying to apply that to my life, I felt, where are the areas of my life? I know where I'm saying yes. I know where I'm excited. I'm moving forward. But what are the areas in my heart, my mind, and my life that are dormant and need to be activated? What parts of me have I shunned and turned a blind eye that need to be activated? So that was my prayer. And I feel like, he activated me.
He activated you.
I feel like I'm living the life.
He turned the on switch.
Here we go.
Angie, go.
It was red. Now it's green. Here we go. Game on. I love it. So to round out our conversation today, Theresa, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but I think you're going to do just fine. You authored a book, The Journey of the Master Builder. I would love you to share with our audience about that book.
Oh, man. That truly took on a life of its own, and it is so fun. So let me I'll give you a little bit of a backstory and then how we have chosen to use this book. But with Unbreakable Enterprises, we had a phenomenal marriage conference, or marriage retreat, I should say. And it was a beautiful retreat. And when we got back, I was following up with our attendees from the retreat. And how's it going? How are you integrating, activating? How are you really, allowing what you learned at the retreat and to integrate into your life, right? And one of my friends that came to the retreat was telling me a story about how when they got back home, how they wanted to really start, implementing some of these things about the gifts that they have in their unity and all of this. And they said, but the challenge they were running into was that while they wanted to bring all this in, they only got their daughters at certain times, and it was hard to get them to really get into the program, right? So let's embrace this life that we want to build together. Anyway, I said, well, tell me about how you're having conversations with your daughters about it. And she said, well, I'm just telling her. I said, okay, let me stop you for a second. I said, you are a doctor and you're brilliant and you speak as a doctor. She's 9. I said, I think something that would be really helpful would be to speak in parables. Talk to her the way Jesus did, in pictures and in messaging that she can understand. And so she was like, oh, okay. Anyway, so a couple days later, I'm literally like getting ready to come into our office here at Top Hat to start a series that I created of a training for our technicians to really get them out of a mindset of technician and, just checking boxes into a new level of becoming the people that they were intended to become. And I remember Angie was in the shower, which is where most great ideas come
Yes,
from.
they do.
But I was in the shower and I was thinking like, okay, how am I like when I am coaching people, they pay me to coach them. These people, I'm paying them to work for. It's a different mindset. How am I going to get these principles in them? And then the Holy Spirit dropped in my heart. Duh, Theresa, speak to them in parables, right? And so, Angie, where this book started is it started with chapter 1, which truly was we're at a crossroads. We need to make a decision about how we're going to show up for ourselves, for our business, for our customers, for everybody. And I was literally, we were at this place and I wanted to share this message, but I just kept feeling it needed to be shared through the lens of pictures. I needed the men that we serve to be able to see themselves in this journey and to see their life kind of unfold and just be felt and seen and recognized at the same time receive principles that would shape their lives. Right. And so the first part was at a crossroads. Listen, we're at a place that if we don't make changes, business is going to struggle. Like we were truly dealing with a situation in business where, AI is here, competitors, we don't know if they're real or fake. Like we were at this place that we really had to embody some changes. And so chapter 1 started and I started writing out what would it feel like to sit at this crossroads, the line in the sand, this place where you have to make a decision, but you have to internalize the decision. And I know what that feels like because as you can clearly see from this conversation, I personally came to crossroads, right? So chapter 1 was written and then chapter 2 came. And then chapter 3 came. And before we knew it, we had a beautiful book that really speaks to a journey of becoming a master builder. And let me tell you, at first I was like, I don't know if these guys are going to enjoy it. Like, I mean, are they going to think this is corny? Like, what's going to, girl, they had notebooks. They were taking notes as we were reading it out. And I was like, I have to get this book published because I want them to have a copy of it because it became part of a transition and a transformation for them. And now we have an entire program built for men around the journey of the master builder to really help men understand that it's okay to have these struggles. It's okay to struggle internally with thoughts and to feel like, am I in a performance mode or a producing mode, and what really matters and what's really important, and how can I become the man that I was created to become?
That's a mic drop moment.
Well,
That's amazing.
Thank you. And it was completely Holy Spirit driven, but profound. And I'm so blessed to be able to have partnered with the Lord and produced it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I have read it and it is so rich and it is a journey. And to be able to, from a female perspective, so I know you're female, you wrote it, but like you said, it was, dropped into your spirit divinely. And to see the unfolding of the story, to see the master builder, to see the young person, to see the challenges that come, to see the characters and the principles be brought out, highlighted, applied, and then to make it to the end of that journey where he's implementing those principles. And it's a very rich story. And it's like chewing on a rib bone. You just keep chewing on it and getting more out of it.
Oh,
it's so good.
Thank you. I was so grateful to get your feedback on it before we published it even, because I know how much you enjoy reading and also your heart. And so that was very instrumental for me, but it's an absolute pleasure. And my hope with it is that, with Unbreakable, there's obviously a way that we speak to women and a way to speak to men. And while I think truly that we are all going through this journey and our beliefs need to be reevaluated. Like so many things, we've got to get back to the core of the two questions that we have in life: who am I and why am I here? Right. But in the journey, we all speak a different language, but our heart is so similar.
Mm.
Right. And whether that's male or female or ethnicity over another, it doesn't really matter. I believe that we were all created with certain attributes and feelings and desires that are so similar, yet the world tries to make us look so different. And that's for division purposes and scarcity thinking and all of that. And so, to be able to have something that speaks uniquely to men, to really empower the way that God created them to be, and to let them see that that's a strength and not a
Mhm.
weakness.
Mhm.
But when you find weak moments, you're not alone.
Mhm.
Like everybody has weak moments, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, I could probably go on and on about that, but I appreciate the opportunity to share because it truly has become a beautiful story that I love to share.
Well, thank you so much for this lovely, beautiful discussion. You opened up a view into your life because so many of us get to see you on stages. We get to see the written words that you've written, Pieces to Purpose, Boat Burning for Beginners. Again, you've done your TEDx talk. You've done so many things where you share from a one to many perspective, but having this one-to-one discussion that so many folks have an opportunity to look through the peephole of what made Theresa Pore who she is today. It's been a very real honor of mine to have this conversation with you. We hope that every single one of you have an opportunity to pick up some of these books, some really great nuggets to help us be the people we're called to be. And like you've taught us, and as we train in the Unbreakable Life, we were made on purpose for a purpose. So we encourage you just to keep listening, keep following, keep engaging, and let's see where we can go from here. We hope you have a blessed and beautiful day. Thank you.